Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Paranormal Stories. First up we have I Couldn't Believe My Own Eyes by Repulsive Coconut 860. Honestly, this is the most crazy thing I've ever seen. My boyfriend is a weed smoker. He wrote and asked me if I wanted to come on a walk to the nature reserve. I don't smoke, but I go on a walk with him a good 80% of the time. The reserve is so close to my house too. It's late evening, and there's quite a bit of light pollution where I live, so it's never pitch black. We walk doing a loop in the fenced area. I notice a light near the fence, and he says, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yeah." Now, I assumed at first it was a trick of the eye, or it was a bird, albino bat. I don't know if they exist, but my mind went to that. Yes, ridiculous maybe. It flapped around, but then it kept shape-shifting from a bird-like creature to an orb to just a light. Then it looked like, imagine a halo on top of a veil. It was very fluidic, like nothing I'd ever seen. It was constantly changing its brightness, too, from really bright to dull. We stood there in disbelief, a good few minutes. It would hover near the grass, then transform to fence height. It would go from transparent or translucent to opaque bright light. I said, "We need to take a picture." I didn't bring my phone. "Do you have yours?" He said, "No." Typical. My boyfriend stood back a bit further, spooked. I stood a bit closer, crouching, making sure I'm actually seeing this shit right now. I'm in disbelief. This was just ongoing. It was real. It started going crazy. Like, imagine a bird diving to the ground, fighting something. As it transformed during this, we heard it flap. Hearing it flap audibly freaked us both the fuck out. We went home, a 5-ish minute walk. I said, "We gotta go back with our phones," so we did. Reluctantly, he came along. We search and see what we think might be it a bit further down. It's still the light random movements, but not moving as much as before. We're unsure if it's the same thing or actually just a random reflection or a real creature. I tried recording it. I can't see it on my phone. My boyfriend gets his flashlight out. We see it go low to the ground. 2 eyes. I bolt off, running away. I'm not staying to find out. My boyfriend's like, "Oh, we're running." He doesn't want to think about it. I'm curious and in disbelief. Maybe the second time I can brush off, but the first sighting was undeniably not something I've ever seen on Earth in my 30 years. Okay, story number 2, The Ghost Dog on Our Paper Route by Affectionate Clue 369. They are also known as Eccentric Hobbies 9164. I'll link their YouTube channel next to their story if you'd like to check it out. So years ago, when my mother, stepfather, sister, and I lived in Artemis, Pennsylvania, my stepfather got the idea to help run the paper route for some extra cash in the household, though I don't think he thought this through. So we would get up around 11 p.m. at night and get around into Cumbernauld, Maryland, to the Times News building. We then could collect our newspapers that we had to deliver all night. Then we would take and stop at a local gas station that was nearby. We then would be on our way to deliver papers. Well, we've been doing this for like 6 months. And there was always this one German Shepherd dog that would use the bathroom early in the morning, like around 1 a.m. As my dad and I would stop to put the newspaper in the box, this dog would bark and show teeth. So oftentimes I would be the one to put the paper in, and my dad would hit the gas and get out of there. Because, to be honest, I didn't want to get bit by that dog or him to try attacking the car. So weeks went by, and we saw this dog. And one morning we pulled up to the newspaper box and I put it in. But yet there is no dog barking, no angry teeth or nothing. My dad and I look at each other and start to wonder what's going on. The owner of the dog was standing outside that early morning. He looked upset and just out of it, like something was missing in his life, and he told me to yell to the guy and ask if he was okay. So of course I rolled the window down, being very cautious of the dog if it was around, and yelled, "Sir, are you okay?" He responded back, "No, I'm not. I had to put my dog down." So meanwhile, my dad and I are feeling really bad for this guy because that dog was his life. And honestly, we didn't know what to say after that. So my dad got out of the car and asked him if he wanted to pray. So the man says, yes, please. So he does. And we got back in the car and went along our way. We then continued on our route, and everything just fell back into place like normal. Well, let's fast forward about a week. My stepfather and I came through during our normal time during paper route. Like usual, around 1 a.m., and we see the light on the front porch. But the guy is not out there this time. But we did see something that made both of us stop and look. We saw that same exact dog sitting on the front porch, just acting like it was waiting to be let back in. And my stepfather and I both look at each other and say, "Isn't that the dog that died?" Now, both of us at this time are very confused and assumed he'd got another dog. Well, we were coming through there one afternoon, and the guy was standing outside, and we stopped, and my dad says out the window, "Hey, sorry to hear about the loss of your dog. I'm glad to see you got another one." The man turns around and says to my stepfather, "What are you talking about? I haven't got another dog." Meanwhile, I'm in the passenger side seat looking very confused, because I know what my stepfather and I saw a few nights before. It honestly broke my heart seeing that dog waiting for its owner. It touched me deep down in my soul, and I could never forget what we saw. It's been since September 28th, 2020, since my father passed away. And when he was alive, me and him both used to bring this up. Now, my mother would shut it down as quick as it came up because she did not want to think about that. She literally would get very emotional. Story number 3. The Mystery of the Present, by Little Dove 2. During my stay in Jordan, husband's long office hours meant the days often stretched into unsettling silence. I had always been accustomed to the close-knit environment of apartment living, where the familiar sounds of neighbors' children playing, footsteps in the corridor, sounds of doors opening and closing, scattering words drifting through the walls, created a sense of connection, making lonely life less solitary. Life in a villa was so different, specifically the kind which we were living in Zarqa. As it is, the house was quite big, and with the nearest signs of bustle of everyday life often at a distance, the villa felt strangely secluded. The silence in the empty spaces felt unnaturally loud. I spent most of the day alone with no one whom I could truly communicate, because most of my neighbors spoke only Arabic. Until I learned their language, the locals remained a stranger to me. Realizing how deeply unsettled I was, I began chanting the Hanuman Chalisa one day, with unwavering faith and devotion, not simply as religious rituals, but as a source of strength and emotional security. The ritual soon became my comforting routine and a shield against my uneasiness. Slowly things began to change in me for the better. After a couple of months, I noticed I had become stronger. Time gave me the opportunity to learn Arabic, and slowly I could connect with my neighbors. I could emotionally tackle my loneliness and became far more composed. Then one day I noticed that I began to distinctly feel the presence of someone staying with me, but I couldn't see that person. There was no weird sound, no unnatural movement inside the house, no visible indication that someone else was there beside me. Yet I had this unexplainable, overwhelming feeling that someone was present along with me in that house. Chanting the Hanuman Chalisa too did not drive away the suffocating uncanniness. This strange feeling remained for a couple of days. Then, just as mysteriously as it had appeared, it disappeared. I remember the enormous sense of relief I felt after that. I could breathe freely again. The very next day I received the devastating news that my beloved grandma had passed away. Grief-stricken, I dismissed the weird feelings that I had experienced as mere coincidence. After a month or so, the same unnerving presence returned again. For 2 or 3 days I would sense an unseen entity quietly sharing my space. Then, just as stealthily as it came, the feeling would disappear. Soon after, news of another relative's passing would reach me. It began with my grandmother, then my maternal uncle, my grandfather, and even a dear friend whose story I shall share another day. Before each loss, the eerie strangeness returned, and it became harder to dismiss it as mere coincidence. What had once seemed like an unsettling pattern was beginning to feel far too real to ignore. What surprised me the most was that, living so far away from my relatives, I would have no prior knowledge of their illness or any reason whatsoever to expect their death. Yet somehow, a few days before a known associate's demise, a strange presence would linger for a couple of days and then vanish, and soon after, I would receive the heartbreaking news. It began to feel like a frightening déjà vu. The pattern was neither explainable nor dismissible. From my intuition, I felt that the chanting of the mantras was somehow triggering the incidences. I could feel the farewell from the departing soul without me consciously knowing about it. So I stopped reciting the Hanuman Chalisa. Strangely enough, the unsettling phenomenon disappeared from my life and has not returned yet. I don't have a valid explanation for what those strange experiences were. Was it my unusual psychological response to solitude and isolation? Or was I experiencing something beyond what we can see or understand? Or were they mere coincidences? I have no answer. What do you think was happening to me? Story number 4 is our resident poltergeist, Yahtzee. Select Sun 595. Here's a fun story for you of the 5th member of our house. Our resident poltergeist had been periodically dropping gifts to our wife for a while now. The first instance was when her and her visiting friends woke up with handmade quilts draped over them, when none of them owned a single quilt. Then, at her second home, her roommates found a 1959 edition of the Yahtzee game. When I came across it while organizing the game cabinet shortly after I moved in, I got both stories and I fell in love with it. I dubbed the sweet spirit Yahtzee. We looked at all the pieces in the game, finding names and dates on the point slips, none of which matched anyone we know. The most valuable find was nestled under the cardboard framing that held the pieces. We found a map for a planned community in Colorado with an X marking one of the lots. Since then, Yahtzee has gifted us a few other treasures. At one point, I was puffing a vape with 0 juice left, and we were waiting for payday to buy me a new one. While my wife was searching in the couch cushions for a charging block that had mysteriously gone missing, she found an old vape. I'm the only one that's ever vaped in this house, and it certainly wasn't mine. She found the charging block next to it, as if Yahtzee had put them in the same place. So we'd find the vape. Another time, my husband's dab pen was empty, and while opening the glove compartment of our wife's truck for napkins, he found one that no one had ever seen before. Recently, my wife pulled out her stack of cookbooks for us to look through, so we could pick a few recipes out that we liked. She very quickly realized that she'd never seen about 5 of the books on the shelf. One book had matching names to the Yahtzee game. When my husband saw another one of them, his jaw dropped. This particular book was the same one his grandma had passed down to him. He had recently talked about how he had lots of cookbooks from his grandma, ones that were unreachable to us, locked in his older sister's storage unit in Oklahoma. He was sad about it since they were extremely important to him. This book that had appeared in our home was one of her favorite recipe books, and as it happens, baking is one of my favorite hobbies. I was thrilled to have a book so valuable to bake some things that his grandma did. I looked up one of the names, complete with the birth and death month year, in the cookbook, and it appears she was born in Kentucky and moved to Texas with her family. The county they moved to is about an hour and a half from our home. Later the same day, while taking a late-night shower, he opened the glass door to find his towel partially floating on its hook, as if someone was trying to take it off. As soon as he saw it, it dropped. Unsure what to do, he stared blankly for a few seconds before rushing to text me about what happened. The beauty of this is that what appears to be an old southern woman looks after us all in a weird way, which is equal parts strange and heartwarming, considering we are a trans polycule living in Texas. And the 5th and final story is Strange Incident While on Duty as a Deputy, by Maleficent External 64. I worked for over 32 years at the Sheriff's Department. I've seen almost everything in police work. I've been retired for 10 years. I want to share one event with everyone and leave it where it sits with you. I was on 3rd shift and had just came on duty and backed up a local police department. The local department had a man walking in the middle of the road carrying a speed limit sign and post. I stopped, and the man was not talking in a coherent manner. The man was talking about taking the sign to a person's home and giving it to them. Fast forward 4 hours into my shift, we handled calls for the hospital security. I was called to the psych ward for guess who. Yes, same guy, now he's in a straitjacket and growling and moaning and sitting up and attempting to bang his head against the wall, but is just out of reach. He was struggling and attempting to get free of the straitjacket. He does not look at me or appear to see me, as he is head down pushing toward the wall. He is loud and on the verge of screaming now as he growls like a dog. In my own mind, I'm looking at this guy, thinking of earlier in the day, what the guy had said. I said in my own mind, not out loud, but in my own mind, the following: I wonder if this guy is possessed. Now, mind you, all this was in my own mind, not verbally out loud. As soon as I said that, in my mind, this guy stops, froze in the act. He turns slowly, no more growls, and looks at me. Seems to study me for a moment, then says this: "What do you think?" As soon as he said this, the hair in the back of my neck stood up. I looked at him, not speaking out loud, but in my own mind I said, "You're in a hospital where they're here to help you medically. I'm here for security. I'm not here to harm you." As soon as I said this in my mind, he turned away from me and goes back to growling and yelling and trying to hit his head on the wall. That was the extent of it, and I know he was committed to the psychiatric ward. Take it for what it is, no conclusions, but this is not an AI story. It's a real event, and I experienced this. I'm still wondering how this happened, even after 20 years now. And I know for a fact I never spoke out loud knowing the situation, and understanding no vocal communication with someone in this situation is normally how you handle this in a hospital. I've had many more incidents happen with me over the years and in my personal life, but this one really stands out for me. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up for my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. $1 or more a month gets you early access to all the videos at once on Monday. There's also a link to my Threads account, my Discord server, and my merchandise store, nearly forgot that. And if you need to contact me, that's kingofthecities@gmail.com. I think that's everything for now, so until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves.